Somewhere's near Baton Rouge, and this is where we've docked, but there is nothing out here other than this boat ramp.
Take you down the historic River Road from
South of
West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Kentucky,
north.
all of that coal out here for the coal burning plant, all that has to be shipped down the river. So 1863, there was a ferry there, already operating in that spot. That ferry continued to operate in that spot until the bridge we're going to cross over, which Benjamin Butler's troops, who were coming up the center part of the state chasing Confederate troops under Zachary Taylor's son, Richard Taylor. That's where most of his 19th Corps crossed the river. Audubon was a tutor, but he was also doing, at that time, his Birds of America collection, which is about 300 birds he painted. There's a very famous picture of Audubon carrying his long rifle. He would shoot the bird, pin it on a board so it wouldn't move, and paint it. Because that drives people in the Audubon Society crazy. Because they never thought that, how do you make a bird hold still for a painting, right? You shoot the sucker.
And one
good paying
the largest refinery in the world.
And then you have the subsidiary oil and gas and plastics around it where other plants have come in. Now the negative side of making all that money come to Louisiana is this stretch of the river above Baton Rouge down to New Orleans, all this is known as Cancer Alley. Right? All this is where Shields Battery was. They're firing to your left at the Union forces. The Confederates are coming in behind us, straight toward the river. They just didn't know from what direction. The Union actually thought they would get attacked down the river, where the Confederates could use the CSS Arkansas to support their attacks.
This is the governor's mansion.
So the house wasn't there then. Now these lakes weren't here either. There was a creek right here. So all of this was the American fort. That low land to your left, that's where the cemetery was. Now officers had themselves buried up there on the top. See the monument on top of the Indian mound? The officers were buried up there. That's a memorial to the American Revolutionary War battle. I personally think they're crazy. Most Louisiana people think they're in the demolition.
Huey Long's buried right
on
there.
Your right, you see a brick building. It is called the Pentagon Barracks. So how many buildings are there? There's one missing, so we have 4 in our Pentagon Barracks. The bus boycott was actually originated here in Baton Rouge by Reverend Jimerson and a young preacher by the name of Martin Luther King. This is the center of Baton Rouge. Now all the area behind us where the Louisiana boys were coming through is wood, so they can't keep the line straight. This is all woods where the National Cemetery is. They didn't have money, probably in their family, to ship their body home like some officers. So they dug them all up and moved them to what we now call national cemeteries. This is the line of attack. You were in the center of the line right here. This is the city cemetery in 1862. That is a city street running through the middle of the cemetery. Field artillery was good for 1 mile. Naval artillery over 3 miles. Mortars over 5 miles. So shooting is easy around here. When the Union boys were running and they got right here in this street, they put 2 artillery pieces. And the left at that time was the Protestant Girls' Orphanage. And they formed line of battle and held right here. Union right to the center of the line. This is the center of Baton Rouge. Now all the area behind us where the Louisiana boys were coming through is wood, so they can't keep the line straight. They fought. This is all woods where the National Cemetery is, right? The Union boys are back here on the right, spread along this line and back toward the river. I know you've heard about this. That's the Jackass Regiment. the 21st Indiana. Their camp right there where that street is, where that car is showing up, going back toward the river. That's their encampment. All white tents, 2 people in a tent. They run into Indiana pickets. That's guards on guard duty. Here to report. Well, that means what? 5:15, 5:30 again, and the same thing happens again. Total chaos. Confederates fall back a third time. Get reorganized. Here they come again. Now you can see what you're aiming at, but it still takes 15 seconds to reload that gun. Can you get it reloaded? Here they come, and it happens all over again. But this time, the Confederates break through. They break through all along this line, and especially through where the gate is. They hit 2 artillery pieces from Michigan straight down this street at the racetrack. They take the 2 Michigan guns, they turn them around and start firing them at the Michigan boys who are running off. But as they come through those woods, their commander, a Louisiana officer who will be buried on that old state capitol ground, Henry Watkins Allen, is wounded. 2 cannons back, spin them around, and start shooting the Louisiana boys in the butt as they run away. The Confederates are winning. And remember, they were supposed to have the Arkansas show up from Vicksburg, but they never got the Arkansas repaired correctly after it had run through not 1 but 2 Union fleets above Vicksburg. And right through here and right down this street, that's the Indiana tent. See them? They're all out in the street and on the parking lot and the old department store. Their commander rides out right there. General Williams rides out, got his sword out, going, "Stop, boys, rally here on me. Rally here," 2 blocks right down this street. Now, we don't know if a Confederate shot him in the front or if a Union boy shot him in the back, because both sides didn't like him. Confederates, what's in the white tent? Everything you don't have as a soldier, the Union soldiers had. Plus, they've got breakfast to eat. Now, I'm convinced one of the first Confederates in the Indiana camp stopped, saw what was happening there, and yelled back this way to his friend. His friend was named Denny, and he yelled, "Hey, Denny, get up here." You go through all the tents and steal everything they have. That's what soldiers do. And then it's time to chase the Indiana and Vermont boys again. So he withdrew the Confederates back out of town 10 miles. Now, did the Union chase them? Of course not. Even though you could have chased them, they didn't chase Lee fast enough after Gettysburg. They didn't chase Lee after Antietam. They always need to chase, but they don't. 20 miles north to a place called Port Hudson. And that's when they'll begin building the incredible fortress that became Port Hudson. The Mississippi River was guarded by 2 great, well-engineered fortresses. Vicksburg to the north, Port Hudson to the south. Vicksburg is no good without Port Hudson. Port Hudson is no good without Vicksburg. The reason they're controlling that 160 miles of Mississippi River is to keep the Red River open. That's the river between Texas and Oklahoma. That's where the supplies are coming into the Confederacy. The Europeans sold the stuff into Mexico. It crossed over the Rio Grande River into Texas. It was brought up to the Red River. From the Red River, it's floated down to Shreveport, Alexandria, the Mississippi, and from there it's dispersed to the Eastern Theater.
At the end of the Civil War,
they were all
General
American.
Sherman got 2 cannons from Fort Sumter and gave them
just like
to
Mary Todd Lincoln
LSU,
losing those 2
and
brothers.
they're still on the campus.
And they have to polish those guns to have them nice and shiny for the football game. There's no reason there's not a memorial, a big statue of William Tecumseh Sherman on the LSU campus.